Hello and welcome to Policy Watch, your packed snapshot of the week's biggest business stories, their context, their relevance and policy impact. I'm Govindraj, Ethiraj. The government has launched 3 gold investment schemes this week aimed at curbing gold imports and mobilizing some 20,000 tons stashed in India's temples, shrines and households. National gold coins and bars of 24-carat purity are some of the other new introductions to the market. Now, the schemes have wide-ranging economic implications, and we'll talk about that just after this report.
The announcement comes just before Diwali, considered an auspicious time for gold purchases. Under the gold monetization scheme, investors can deposit their gold with banks and earn up to 2.5% interest. But the gold will have to be melted and converted into coins and bars for valuation. The investors will also be required to complete Know Your Customer or KYC norms and disclose the source of the gold.
किसी ने कोई बहुत बड़ा जलाशय बनाया हो, डैम बनाया हो, अरबों खरबों रुपए खर्च किए हो, लेकिन अगर कैनाल नेटवर्क न हो, किसानों के पास पहुंचेगा नहीं तो क्या करना उसको? ये हमारा 20,000 टन सोने की यही हाल है जी. हमें इसको राष्ट्र की शक्ति में परिवर्तित करना है.
Under the gold bond schemes, investors can buy gold bonds and earn guaranteed annual interest of 2.75%. There's an investment ceiling of 500 grams with a minimum 5-year lock-in period. Interest accruals are taxable under the Income Tax Act.
Expectations were that the rate of interest being low, return being low, it will be tax-free. So the people need not hassle on this issue. But as we see the scheme which is being notified, the rate of interest, though they are being around 2.75, which is there, but it is being made taxable.
The aim is curbing gold imports and mobilizing domestic gold for productive purposes by bringing it into formal financial channels. In 2014-15, India imported 900 tons of gold that put huge pressure on India's current account deficit. In 2012-13, India's current account deficit had gone up nearly $90 billion, or a record 4.8% of the GDP, forcing the government to impose restrictions on gold imports. Krishnanand Tripathi's report for Rajya Sabha Television.
Well, joining me now are Ajay, Bagga, Executive Chairman of OPC Asset Solutions, Keyur, Shah, CFO of Muthoot, Pappachan Group, Mohit, Kamboj, President of the India Bullion and Jewellers Association. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So, let me begin with you, Ajay. So, gold has always been a very precious but illiquid asset in this country. So, are these moves, these 3 steps, likely to begin the process of unlocking value?
I think it is a beginning. And to understand from a macro perspective, Govind, 3-4 things. One, we have huge amounts of gold. It's not a poor country. Estimates are about 20,000 to 22,000 tons of gold held in Indian trusts, temple trusts, as well as Indian households. Nearly 1,000 tons we are importing every year. Huge impact on our current account deficit, because 1.7% of GDP is the amount of gold imported, and 1.4% is your current account deficit. So if you didn't import gold, today you would be having a current account surplus.
Right.
Second big part is that people have traditionally invested in gold because of the strength of the dollar. So if you see in the last 5 years, the rupee has fallen 47% against the dollar, and gold has appreciated in rupee terms 28%.
Right.
So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that people keep putting in, that gold though in rupee terms it keeps appreciating. And third is the linkage between consumer price inflation and gold, which is also there enough studies showing that the more you keep buying gold, the more the consumer price inflation keeps going up.
Okay, so which is the cause and which is the effect?
Buying of gold.
Okay,
is the effect.
Great. So, Keyur, your firm lends to for gold. Tell us, what's the consumer sense that you're getting? I mean, in general first, and at this point, at this time, and what could the scheme or the set of schemes do?
See, I think for Indians, gold is the most time-tested asset class, and looking at mass market, I think more than 90% don't have access to the modern instruments of investments, be it stock markets, equities, mutual funds. That's where they invest or save in gold and silver. Right? And that's an age-old thing. I don't think it's going to go away so easily. I think the scheme, what it does, and which I agree with what Ajay was mentioning about the macroeconomic effect and the impact of gold having on the current account deficit. I think this is the first time any government has given a clear directive to the gold industry, wherein we should reduce our over-dependence on imports and tap in the locker gold, so-called locker gold. Okay. from a retail perspective, now consumers who have gold, okay, they have different needs. If they need to monetize it, they're currently doing it already through gold loan NBFCs like us, Muthoot FinCorp. But there are a lot of people who also want to sell it off to achieve some life milestones. So they want to buy a house, they want to send their kids for education. For them, this becomes a great opportunity that, okay, whatever gold I have, instead of just keeping it idle and having these fears of safety, security, paying the locker fees year on year, why don't I just deposit that with the government?
Yeah, but you also said that there is seems to be a slight contradiction because people are in general averse to financial instruments, whatever the underlying asset might be.
No, see, that is because they don't have access. The problem is access.
Yeah, so therefore I'm saying, so if they don't have access.
Yeah, so now, in a way, see, it may take many years for everybody to get access, right? How many PAN card numbers are there? How many Demat accounts are there? It may take years, but currently gold is already there. So immediately, at least they can monetize that. They're doing that through gold loan NBFCs, but this is a chance if they want to sell it or they want to deposit, they don't want to sell it, they just want to keep it for some time, at least they bring it out. This scheme aims to bring out the locker gold into the formal system. The consumer also benefits by earning interest as well as doing away with all the risk involved into the safety.
So we're going to talk about both this bond scheme and the locker gold. So Mohit, what's your sense? I mean, do you feel people are likely to shift to non-physical assets or financial assets as this combination of schemes gets going?
देखिए, सबसे पहले तो मैं सरकार को धन्यवाद दूंगा कि सरकार ने जो नेगेटिव सेक्टर में गोल्ड इंडस्ट्री थी, ज्वेलर्स को हेल्प करने के लिए मोदी जी ने अपने भाषण में भी 5 तारीख को ये बात बोली कि गोल्ड मॉनिटाइजेशन स्कीम जो डम गोल्ड देश में है उसको दोबारा अगर लोग उस सरकार में डिपॉजिट करते हैं और सरकार में बैंकों में डिपॉजिट होने के बाद ज्वेलर्स को शॉर्टफॉल रहता है गोल्ड लोन का, वो गोल्ड लोन वहां से वो फुलफिल कर सकते हैं. उसके वो होने के कारण करंट अकाउंट डेफिसिट और जो गोल्ड इंपोर्ट है उसमें भी काफी सहयोग मिलेगा सरकार को. साथ ही साथ सरकार जो बॉन्ड की स्कीम लेके आई, हमने पहले भी देखा है कि लोगों का गोल्ड में दिलचस्पी हमेशा इन्वेस्टमेंट की रही है और इस बार सरकार उसके साथ इंटरेस्ट भी बॉन्ड के ऊपर दे रही है. आने वाले समय में बॉन्ड एक बहुत ही बड़ी महत्वपूर्ण स्कीम नजर आएगी सरकार के लिए और काफी इसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट सरकार को आने वाले समय में होगा. फिलहाल सरकार 50 टन बॉन्ड को लेकर मार्केट में आई है, लेकिन ये 50 टन बहुत जल्दी लोग सब्सक्राइब कर लेंगे, बॉन्ड खरीद लेंगे और इनको सरकार को फिर इसका बढ़ा के नया बॉन्ड इशू करना पड़ेगा.
Mohit, what you're saying is that you expect the response to be very good, but have you been talking to anyone? Is your sense that people are likely to, go for the scheme the way you're saying it right now? Or do you think that they might have some concerns still?
सर 5 तारीख को लॉन्च होने के बाद लगभग 1000 से 1500 कॉल्स तो हमको हमारी संस्था में आ चुके हैं कि ये स्कीम को आगे कैसे लेके जाने के, बॉन्ड की अवेलेबिलिटी कैसे होगी. लोग काफी क्यूरियस हैं बॉन्ड की स्कीम जानने के लिए. और रहा सवाल गोल्ड मोनेटाइजेशन का, वो भी लोग देख रहे हैं कि गोल्ड मोनेटाइजेशन की स्कीम के अंदर ज्वेलरी डिपॉजिट करने में, गोल्ड डिपॉजिट करने में क्या बेनिफिट्स रहेंगे, सोर्सेज कैसे रहेंगे, रिफाइनरी के पास कैसे अप्रोच करना है. पब्लिक काफी क्यूरियस है, देश की जनता काफी क्यूरियस है ये दोनों स्कीम को लेते हुए कि दोनों स्कीम से क्या बेनिफिट वो उठा सकते हैं.
Okay, so Ajay, it seems to be that the response is very strong. What are the hurdles ahead?
See, hurdles are manifold. This is the third.
And let me also add to that question. So, is the response from the same people that we want those to respond, or is it from the same people who are in any case savvy about investing in financial assets and so on?
That's a very good point, and in fact UBS just did a study and what they found that people who own gold already are tracking such schemes, are very keen on the scheme, but nearly 80% people were not aware of the scheme. This is dated, this is pre the Man Ki Baat mention and pre November 5th. Right. Only 20% were aware. I'm sure government will now roll out the advertisement and more will be aware. The big thing is, Govind, it's nearly $1 trillion of gold holding. You have 50% of the economy which is held as gold. Look at the central government budget. It is only 18 lakh crores. 60 lakh crores is the gold holding. Sure. So if we can monetize it and bring those funds into the economy, a small portion, what Keyur bhai said, not all will come. Very true. I'm saying even if 10% starts coming into the economy over the next 5 years, again a UBS calculation is a 1% of GDP change in the gold consumption leads to a 0.2% increase in the GDP. That's the kind of sensitivity, and we'll get capital, we'll get more productive assets because you're just putting gold in. You think in rupee terms it's going up, but it's an asset which is not earning.
Right. Okay, quickly, so if you were to compare this scheme or this set of schemes with your existing schemes, how would you compare and what would you push?
See, 3 things which were launched by the government. the sovereign gold bond scheme, I think with Mohit also mentioned, my views are it's going to be successful. It needs to go the Kisan Vikas Patra way.
Okay.
It needs to be flooded into the market. So currently banks and post offices are allowed. I think they need to open it up to jewelers, NBFCs, they all should be selling it. That the households will not refrain from taking. For example, see, even jewelry consumers, people say, okay, this is only meant for people who buy coins in bars. No, if you look at average household, the housewife buys 1-2 grams every month for years, and then she converts into jewelry. So for her, buying, instead of buying physical 1-2 grams, she buys these bonds, and then after 5-7 years, whenever she's got enough gold, she can convert to jewelry. So I think that's successful. The coin which was launched, the India gold coin, I think that is excellent idea, because it will do away with a lot of imported gold coins, which is roughly 40-50 tons are imported every year. So that has a direct impact on CAD. Third,
but we've had gold coins in the past, right?
Yeah, most of them are from Switzerland. Yeah. Right? And then you have localized coins. Now, localized coins, I think they always question, are they standardized? The banks are selling.
And they don't buy back. I mean, they only sell it to you.
So now this at least guarantees a government coin, so buyback value also will be very transparent. So that the third thing is the gold monetizing scheme, which is where I think the success factor lies on two accounts. One is at the ground level, what is the level of participation of collection centers? Currently only BIS hallmark centers have been authorized, which is rightly so, but they are not enough. And they are all B2B institutions. They need to transform into becoming B2C. I think Prime Minister Modi mentioned in his speech on 5th was, I think the highest trust factor is with the local jewelers as well as gold loan NBFCs. They also should be authorized to become collection centers after following a due diligence process of being certified. But I think that is critical. And second, in the gold monetizing scheme, it is the banks who are supposed to come out with the details. See, the sovereign bond and the coin, RBI and the government has launched. But the monetizing scheme, the bank yet has to launch it and come out with details in terms of commercial.
So, Ajay, if we were to now spin forward, what are the key sort of challenges and opportunities ahead?
This is the
third, from a macro as well as a
This is the third time such a gold scheme has come. 1962 one came where they had to bring in a gold control order. It became so successful because 6% interest was shown and people started hoarding gold. Last scheme was the gold savings scheme where only 15 tons came in 15 years. So it was a non-starter, 0.75%. Only SBI was so distribution was the issue. This is very well thought out. And if you see the linkages, government first launched the gold loan scheme for jewelers. So any gold collected can be given to the jewelers for use. One is that. Second, they've done the Jan Dhan Yojana. So about 19 crore accounts opened. And next step is you can open demat accounts for them where they can hold sovereign bond, sovereign gold bonds.
So you're saying financial inclusion is at the other end of the chain.
So it's a very well thought out. I would say from a policy perspective, well thought out. Scheme has been thought out. Now we have to get the distribution execution done. And some tax angles are there which need to be ironed out.
Okay. Keyur, between other financial assets and these assets, what are you recommending?
Gold.
Okay.
Yeah, because I've been a student of gold all through. But no, more seriously, it is the only, as I said, time-tested liquid asset which Indians believe in as masses. And that belief is not going to go away very easily because it's very culturally.
And all of this really strengthens that.
Culturally, and it strengthens it and it's giving the right direction. Right? So far, people have invested or saved in gold and they will, but at least this gold is now being channelized in the right direction.
And you feel that it's remunerative from a tax point of view? There are no, I mean, people are not going to get put off by the fact that there is a capital gain.
See, those who want to avoid paying taxes, they may, but that's not the way forward, right? The government directive is also very clear. Please, it's a tax-friendly environment they want to build, and everybody has to fall in line.
So will people respond is my question.
Hopefully they should. And if you look at it, most of them are 90% asset are mass consumers. They either don't fall under the tax bracket or they're continuing to pay taxes very honestly.
Okay, so anyway, it's a good step. I mean, hopefully all these things will come into place and people will fundamentally want to come into the formal system and thus help improve finances for themselves as well as for the government. It's well thought out. We've run out of time. We need to go into a break, but coming up on the other side, we talk about the new draft aviation policy. Stay with us.
संसद का शीतकालीन सत्र 26 नवंबर से। कितना होगा काम और कौन से होंगे मसले? देखिए पहली खबर, सीसीपी बैठक शाम 7 बजे।
Welcome back to Policy Watch. A draft of the National Aviation Policy aimed at making flying affordable is out for feedback from stakeholders and the general public. Simplification, reducing taxes on maintenance, overhaul and repair, and allowing greater foreign direct investments are some of the proposals. Here's more.
To make flying affordable for the common man, the government has come up with several proposals in a draft civil aviation policy. The policy was unveiled by the Civil Aviation Ministry on Friday with the purpose to boost regional connectivity. The new policy suggests a 2% levy on airfares on trunk routes to subsidize air travel to underserved and unserved destinations. It also proposes 50% FDI in domestic carriers. Among the other measures, the policy proposes the setting up of no-frills airports at over 401 unused airstrips across the country. These would be developed at an estimated cost of around 50 crore rupees each. The policy also suggests capping fares at 2,500 rupees for 1-hour flights under the Regional Connectivity Scheme.
We invite suggestions from the stakeholders, from the public, because this involves the people of the country. And all those suggestions that come in, we'll be looking at it.
Among other things, the draft policy proposes to rationalize jet fuel costs, promote air cargo, maintenance, repair and operations through fiscal and regulatory concessions, and frame separate regulations for promoting helicopter operations. To make MRO, that is maintenance, repair and overhaul, cheaper, the government has proposed to exempt such activities from the service tax net and not levy any VAT.
It should be a policy which takes flying to masses. It should no longer confine flying only to the elite class of the people. It should take flying to the masses. In keeping with that directive of Honorable Prime Minister, we have attempted to create this policy.
However, the government has decided to seek more comments from stakeholders before taking a final call on 520 norms, whereby local airlines can fly overseas only when they have 5 years operational experience and a fleet of at least 20 aircraft. The draft policy would be put up for comments for the next 3 weeks. With Navikram Singh, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me now are Jitender, Bhargava, former Executive Director of Air India, and Captain A.D. Manek, an aviation expert. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. So, let me begin with you, Mr. Bhargava. So, what's the most important aspect of the civil aviation policy in terms of impacting passengers like us?
You see, the first thing is this is the best draft of an aviation policy put up in the last 20 years.
Okay.
Now, it's more comprehensive, more detailed.
And you've always argued that we've lacked a sort of comprehensive civil aviation.
You see,
policy.
one reason why aviation sector has been in a mess is because ad hoc decisions were being taken in the absence of an aviation policy. Now that you have a policy, it's a good policy, a comprehensive policy, perhaps we can put Indian aviation on a robust trajectory. That's one part. The certain parts are exceptionally good. You're finally realizing that aviation is a good catalyst for economic growth. So naturally,
and that should be the starting point.
It will be a good, attention thing. The second is, government has so far been extracting money out of the sector. For the first time in this policy, it is talking about giving concessions, tax concessions to boost aviation connectivity. This is another good feature. The highlight, I would say, is the regional connectivity. Though the government has in the policy said there are 476 airstrips, only 75 are being used, more of them must be used. Yes, go cautiously, go slowly. There are various kind of sectors which require connectivity, which require government assistance, tax concessions, because it will boost economic activity. Now, don't try and go 400 airports, airstrips together. Take it 20, 25
slowly
at a
and
time.
steadily,
25
because we've
at a
already
time.
got some airports which are not being used.
You see, they're plentiful, let's put this way, where investments were made and they're still not being used.
And these are all new airports. I mean, this is not traditional.
Not new airports. Old airstrips,
but new buildings.
terminal buildings, but not being utilized. So that was again, why did it happen?
Right. Okay. So, Captain Manek, what's the one thing that you are really excited about when you read this policy?
I'm excited overall because I've been waiting in the launch since long, and the policy I believe is going to make a very good, widen, vibrant skies for the Indian, all flying community and all citizens of this country.
Okay. So you train pilots. So do you feel that this is likely to result in more opportunities?
Yes, yes. We had problem in today. In fact, we have a problem. 7,000 pilots are unemployed, and still we have expert pilots. Those are working. The policy will definitely make sure to make airlines to enable to train the existing lot of co-pilots to commander type-rated pilots, which will allow expert to go out of the country, which will create more opportunity for newcomers and shipyard holders, local people.
Right. So when we say regional connectivity, and both of you seem to feel that that's the most critical thing in this policy, what are the things that we need apart from, let's say, state government support in terms of infrastructure at airports and so on?
Of course, state government should play a very pivotal role, very key role in this as far as the development is concerned. The center is doing well, but state government should coordinate, come on board and discuss and become the part of the industry, overall development.
Okay.
You see why I said this policy has gone into detail. For example, they very categorically stated that airlines which do not reduce tax to 1% on ATF will not have this benefit of regional connectivity.
Yeah.
So there is an incentive being given for state governments to reduce the taxes. Undoubtedly, if you have regional connectivity will be a booster for the economy, employment prospects. Look at the kind of pilots, as you just said, 7,500 pilots being employed. Smaller aircraft people will buy. And the other good feature of the policy is that a person with even one aircraft can start an airline. So this benchmarking that you must have a minimum number of aircraft to get into an airline. So if I am a businessman, say for example in Nasik, and I see the potential between Nasik and Pune, I'll buy one aircraft, start Nasik, Nasik flights. Now this way you can kind of think it will be an impetus given to the aviation sector.
Right.
So not only employment, economic activity, hotel industry, the kind of effect
so the
it has
economic,
on the
I think,
total will be tremendous as long as we go in a calibrated manner, we don't mess up. The kind of planning that has gone in this time for the policy must be taken to the logical end with the help of experts. Let not bureaucrats take on the thing. The other point that I would like to make, because what government has talked about, which is a good feature of this thing, of capping the fare at 2,500 rupees per hour of flying, right? Now, how do you plan to do it?
Is that a good thing or not?
It's a good thing.
Okay. And airlines, I think, are already on board on this.
No, it's a good thing. The question is, you can get into detail. Must I auction a route kind of a thing for it? Whichever airline quotes the least, let me do it. You can work out the rate kind of a thing to go. The important part that I was trying to talk here was that if government is saying that we will provide connectivity at 2,500, capping will be done, for example, the fare and the cost kind of a thing to go by. Now, the only opposition that I have in this scheme is charging 2% to other passengers on other sectors, which I don't think is the right way. Why should I, flying on the Mumbai-Delhi sector, be subsidizing something, one thing? Second, if you recall, when the Delhi airport was being done, we were paying airport development fund. When bankers put in their money for an airport development, they get interest. The promoter gets money, long-term dividends and all those things on the thing. What do passengers get? So I would like to propose as part of this policy now that let's have a passenger association body kind of a thing.
But isn't
the
there one
quantum of money, no, it is not part of the policy. I, as the chairman of the Airports and Aviation Committee of Indian Merchant Chamber, will put forth this point now. Now you let this fund, total fund, be a kind of a kitty in the kitty as a body, for passengers fund, right? And give passengers representation on the body which take decisions. Otherwise, what we may witness, let me caution at this stage, regional connectivity, like it happened in the railway sector, every railway minister providing connectivity to his constituency, people will try and boost the state from which they come. Now, I don't want that to happen. Let passengers who are going to be putting in money in this venture have a say in it.
Right. So, Captain Manek, so, one of the things is competition. So, this seems to be a document, if converted into policy, which will encourage competition. But somehow, in Indian industry, aviation industry, competition has also turned to be harmful in some ways because either there's been oversupply, the infrastructure is not caught up. What's your sense? Are we sort of building a comprehensive policy framework which will ensure that people actually survive and do well?
Yes, I agree with you. There were some bottleneck problems in the past, and I hope that draft policy what we have at the moment, which is if it going to become effective, as it says from 1st April 2016, is going to make a lot of difference. And whatever we heard, those issues and problems connected with the aviation industry will definitely over the years,
let me define that question a little more. So airlines are doing somewhat better now, but one reason is low prices of oil. Right? If oil prices were to go up tomorrow, plus let's say we had some kind of open sky arrangement where foreign carriers come in, do you think that we will still be in a position to be as competitive? I'm talking about new players.
Yes.
Okay.
We will.
Okay, and do you agree?
No, I disagree on this point. This is the time when everything is going the airline industry way. Low prices, growth, and lack of growth in terms of capacity augmentation. So with the result, all airlines are doing high load factors, fairly decent load factors. Imagine a scenario, and let's not forget also the fact that airlines have stimulated the market through low fares. So there is a pent-up demand for seats, right? Imagine if a couple of more airlines are given licenses by the government and they come into the market. What happens? The gap between capacity and demand will widen, resulting in fare wars, lower yield for the airlines, and therefore impacting the economic health of the airlines. So the government, while formulating the policy, must also add in it on what kind of capacity augmentation will be allowed. 2% plus growth.
Yeah.
Or will you give a carte blanche to the airlines to add as many aircraft as your pocket allows in the short term, and having deep...
So yes or no? What is the answer to that?
Where?
Should they be allowed to add capacity or should they not be allowed?
In a calibrated manner, certain fixed percentage over and above the projected demand. Let there not be a...
But who's going to decide that? Who's going to decide this?
Government. Well, you know the demand as it's growing up, and you said, okay, this is the augmentation. So what we're basically saying is a kind of regulation, regulated policy, that if an X airline says, I'm adding 10 aircraft in the next 5 months, says, sorry, we can only allow you 3 because this is the kind of growth. If you dumping capacity in the market, it leads to
so calibrated growth is what you're saying. So, Captain Manek, we're running out of time. So, what's your takeaway? Your final takeaway is: you're mostly happy as you've said?
Yeah, I'm mostly happy.
Any concern points quickly that you want to outline?
Mostly the employment part. As far as I'm in to training, so that's a worrying issue for the country.
Okay, and you've got 7,000 pilots who are still to be employed.
Yeah, employed. So this will definitely give a very good boost to the those unemployed, and will on a large scale, on international level, Indian aviation will make a very good benchmark in next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, that's great. Last word. Yeah, 10 seconds. Yeah.
You see, so far what has happened is because of lack of policy, we have been outsourcing our market to foreign carriers. As a consequence, employment of pilots, maintenance engineers and everything has been given to the foreign carriers. So this policy needs to fine-tune this aspect, that a bilateral policy will undergo a major change, keeping 2 things in view. India's national interest, make in India policy, number 1. Number 2, that the benefits of the growing Indian market should accrue to the Indian players and the Indian public, not to outsiders anywhere in the world. So the past needs to be corrected by taking some strong actions, and the guiding factor, like including the 520 part, anything where there is a contentious issue, the guiding principle should be national interest, not interest of a particular airline or a particular country while taking a decision.
Okay. Gentlemen, we've run out of time. That's all we have for you in this episode of Policy Watch. We'll be back next week, same time. Thanks for watching.